in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits in length, corresponding to the width of the house, and its depth long along the front of the house was 10 cubits. Also for the house he made windows with artistic frames. Against the wall of the house he built stories encompassing the walls of the house around both the nave and the inner sanctuary. Thus he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, and the middle was 6 cubits wide, and the third was 7 cubits wide. For on the outside he made offsets in the wall of the house all around, in order that the beams would not be inserted in the walls of the house. The house, while it was built of stone prepared at the quarry, and there was neither hammer nor axe nor any iron tool heard in the house while it was being built. The doorway for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the house, and they would go up by winding stairs to the middle story, and from the middle to the third. So he built the house and finished it, and he covered the house with beams and planks of cedar. He also was cedar. He also built the stories against the whole house, each 5 cubits high, and they were fastened to the house with timbers of cedar. The book of 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verse 19. All this, said David, the Lord had made me understand in writing by his hand upon me all the details of this pattern. All right, let's see. The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 3 verse 1 through 17. Then Solomon began to build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David, at the place that David had prepared on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. He began to build on the 2nd day, in the 2nd month of the 4th year of his reign. Now these are the foundations which Solomon laid for building the house of God. The length in cubits according to the old standard was 60 cubits, and the width 20 cubits. The porch which was in front of the house was as long as the width of the house, 20 cubits, and the height 120. And inside he overlaid it with pure gold. He overlaid the main room with cypress wood, and overlaid it with fine gold, and ornamented it with palm trees and chains. Furthermore, he adorned the house with precious stones, and the gold was gold from Parvium. He also overlaid the house with gold, the beams, the thresholds, and its walls and its doors, and he carved cherubim on the walls. Now he made the room of the Holy of Holies. Its length across the width of the house was 20 cubits, and its width was 20 cubits. And he overlaid it with fine gold, amounting to 600 talents. The weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold. He also overlaid the upper rooms with gold. Then he made 2 sculptured cherubim in the room of the Holy of Holies, and overlaid them with gold. The wingspan of the cherubim was 20 cubits. The length of the wing of one of 5 cubits touched the wall of the house, and its other wing of 5 cubits touched the wing of the other cherub. The wing of the other cherub of 5 cubits touched the wall of the house, and its other wing of 5 cubits was attached to the wing of the first cherub. The wings of these cherub extended 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet facing the main room. He made the veil of violet, purple, crimson, and fine linen, and he worked cherubim on it. He also made 2 pillars for the front of the house, 35 cubits high, and the capital on the top of each was 5 cubits. He made chains in the inner sanctuary and placed them on the tops of the pillars. And he made 100 pomegranates and placed them on the chains. He erected the pillars in the front of the temple, one on the right and the other on the left, and named the one on the right Jashin and the one on the left Boaz. Hold on. Yeah, so as you can see there, they were very detailed when they were building things for the Lord and building all these sanctuaries and temples and whatnot. The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 4 verse 1 through 22. Then he made a bronze altar, 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in width, and 10 cubits in height. Also he made the cast metal sea, 10 cubits from brim to brim, circular in form, and its height was 5 cubits, and the circumference 30 cubits. Now Figures like oxen were under it and all around it, 10 cubits entirely encircling the sea. The oxen were in 2 rows, cast in one piece. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing the north, 3 facing the west, 3 facing the south, and 3 facing the east. And the sea was set on top of them, and all their hindquarters turned inwards. It was a handbreadth thick, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup. Like a lily blossom, it could hold 3,000 baths. He also made 10 basins in which to wash, and he set 5 on the right side and 5 on the left to rinse things for the burnt offering. But the sea was for the priest to wash in. Then he made the 10 golden lampstands in the way prescribed for them, and he set them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. He also made 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. And he made 100 golden bowls. Then he made the court of the priests and the great court and doors for the court, and overlaid their doors with bronze. He set the sea on the right side of the house toward the southeast. Hiram also made the pails, the shovels, and the bowls. So Hiram finished doing the work which he performed for King Solomon in the house of God. The 2 pillars, the bowls, and the 2 capitals on top of the pillars, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on top of the pillars, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network, to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which are on the pillars. He also made the stands, and he made the basins on the stands, and the 1 sea with the 12 oxen under it, the pails, the shovels, the forks, and all its utensils. Haramabi made of polished bronze for King Solomon, for the house of the Lord on the plain of the Jordan. The king cast them in the clay ground between Succoth and Zeradah. Thus Solomon made all these utensils in great quantities, for the weight of the bronze could not be found out. Solomon also made all these things that were in the house of God, even the golden altar, the tables with the bread of the presence on them, the lampstands with their lamps of pure gold to burn in front of the inner sanctuary, and the prescribed, the flowers, the lamps, and the tongues of gold, of purest gold, and the snuffers, the bowls, the spoons, and the fire pans of pure gold, and the entrance of the house, its inner doors for the holy of holies, and the doors of the house that is of the nave of gold. The book of Joshua, chapter 8, verse 31. Just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the sons of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no man had wielded an iron tool, and they offered burnt offerings on it to the Lord, and sacrificed peace offerings. The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 25. If you make an altar of stone for me, you shall not build it of cut stones, for if you wield your tool on it, you will profane it. The book of 2 Kings, chapter 16, verse 10 through 11. Now King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet the Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw the altar which was at Damascus. And King Ahaz went to Urijah, the priest of the pattern of the altar and its model according to all its workmanship. So Urijah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. Thus Urijah the priest made it before the coming of King Ahaz from Damascus. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22, verse 8. When you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you will not bring blood guilt on your house, if anyone falls from it. All right. So let's see here. Okay. All right, hold on. All right. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 40, verse 1 through 49. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year on the 10th of the month, in the 14th year, after the city was taken on that same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me there. In the visions of God, he brought me into the land of Israel, and set me on a very high mountain. And on it to the south there was a structure like a city. So he brought me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, with a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand. And he was standing in the gateway. The man said to me, Son of man, see with your eyes, hear with your ears, and give attention to all that I am going to show you. For you have been brought here in order to show it to you. Declare to the house of Israel all that you see. And behold, there is a wall on the outside of the temple all around, and in the man's hand was a measuring rod of 6 cubits, each of which was a cubit and a handbreadth. So he measured the thickness of the wall, 1 rod, and the height 1 rod. Then he went to the gate which faced east, went up its steps, and measured the threshold of the gate, 1 rod in width, and the other threshold was 1 rod in width. The guard room was 1 rod long and 1 rod wide, and there were 5 cubits between the guard rooms. And the threshold of the gate by the porch of the gate facing inward was 1 rod. Then he measured the porch of the gate facing inward, 1 rod. He measured the porch of the gate 8 cubits, and its side pillars 2 cubits, and the porch of the gate was faced inward. The guard rooms of the gate toward the east numbered 3 on each side. The 3 of them had the same measurement. The side pillars also had the same measurement on each side. And he measured the width of the gateway 10 cubits, and the width of the gate 13 cubits. There was a barrier wall 1 cubit wide in front of the guard rooms on each side, and the guard rooms were 6 cubits square on each side. He measured the gate from the roof of one guard room to the roof of the other, a width of 25 cubits from one door to the door opposite. He made the side pillar 60 cubits high. The gate extended round about to the side pillar of the courtyard. From the front of the entrance gate to the front of the inner porch of the gate was 50 cubits. There were shuttered windows looking toward the guard rooms, and took their side pillars within the gate all around, and likewise for the porches. And there were windows all around inside, and on each side pillar were palm tree ornaments. Then he brought me into the outer court, and behold, there were chambers, and a pavement made for the court all around. 30 chambers faced the pavement. The pavement, that is the lower pavement, was by the side of the gates, corresponding to the length of the gates. Then he measured the width from the front of the lower gate to the front of the exterior of the inner court, 100 cubits on the east and on the north. As for the gate of the outer court, which faced the north, he measured its length and its width. It had 3 guard rooms on each side, and its side pillars and its porches had the same measurement as the first gate. Its length was 50 cubits, and the width 25 cubits. Its windows and its porches and its palm tree ornaments had the same measurements as the gate which faced toward the east, and it was reached by the 7 steps, and its porch was in front of them. The inner court had a gate opposite the gate on the north, as well as the gate on the east, and he measured 100 cubits from gate to gate. Then he led me toward the south, and behold, there was a gate toward the south. And he measured its side pillars and its porches according to those same measurements. The gate and its porches had windows all around like those other windows. The length was 50 cubits, and the width was 25 cubits. There were 7 steps going up to it, and its porches were in front of them. And it had palm tree ornaments on its side pillars, 1 on each side. The inner court had a gate toward the south, and he measured from gate to gate toward the south 100 cubits. Then he brought me to the inner court by the south gate, and he measured the south gate according to those same measurements. Its guard rooms also, its side pillars, and its porches were according to the same measurements. And the gate and its porches had windows all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. There were porches all around, 25 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. Its porches were toward the outer court, and palm tree ornaments were on its side pillars, and its stairway had 8 steps. He brought me to the inner court toward the east, and he measured the gate according to the same measurements. Its guard rooms also, its side pillars and its porches were according to those same measurements. And the gate and its porches had windows all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. Its porches were toward the outer court, and palm tree ornaments were on its side pillars, and on each side, and its stairways had 8 steps. Then he brought me to the north gate, and he measured it according to those same measurements with its guards rooms. Its side pillars and its porches and the gate had windows all around. The length was 50 cubits and the width 25 cubits. Its side pillars were toward the outer court, and palm tree ornaments were on its side pillars on each side, and its stairway had 8 steps. A chamber with its doorway was by the side pillars at the gates. There they were